Are you ready to find out what you should do as a project management virtual assistant? In this video, I'm going to dive through a few things that you need to prepare if you are about to be onboarded as a PM virtual assistant, things that you should be doing from day to day, and what basically the whole process or the day-to-day of a project management virtual assistant looks like. First thing is, if you're just getting onboarded, is you want to make sure that you gather a lot of data. This will kind of empower you that as you're working with your client, that you have the clear goals of what they're trying to achieve, why they needed to hire a project manager virtual assistant in the first place, and of course, how you can best support them with your role. So you want to gather things like their SOPs, like their standard operating procedures, basically how they're currently doing their projects, how they're currently doing a few tasks, how they're currently doing anything within the business, because that'll give you the insight of how, basically, what are your boundaries as you're working with them, what are the things that you can exceed, and again, how you can best support them. Of course, you want to make sure that you look at the past projects and the current projects that they have and how they were able to process through each one of them before. You want to make sure that you have the clarity of how they usually go through in creating and managing their own projects, and what are the bottlenecks that they might have had before or current bottlenecks that they're facing on their current projects. Next is you want to be clear on current KPIs or key performance indicators of basically what are the numbers that they really care about and how each project affects that. So for example, within 2XU, for a lot of our own managers and admin, basically when we're creating projects for supporting our executive assistants, the main metric there is, of course, we want to have a really high satisfaction rate when our EAs are working with us. So then, of course, happy EAs means that our clients are also happy. So every single thing that we do when we're developing our processes and systems works towards that. So you want to look at current and past projects that they have had, they've finished basically, and looking at how those finished projects affected their KPIs and how the current projects are working towards whatever that KPI is. Next is you want to review any current workflows that they might currently have. So for example, how do they usually onboard clients? How do they usually process when something happens in the business? How do they usually, if X happens, what's the Z thing that they do? The reason why you want to do this is, again, you want to understand how these projects that you're going to be managing and working with them affects everything else. Now, as a project manager VA, you might be managing different things. You might be managing just the projects internally. You might be managing someone's onboarding. That's your project management. You could be managing an external project, whatever that looks like. You want to make sure that there is clarity on how things usually flow from the beginning of the project all the way to the end of the project. Next is, if they don't already have it yet, it's important to set up project dashboards. What these are is, it basically is kind of a visual way to see where all the projects are at. If a percentage of how far along the project is, how many things are in backlog, how many things are pending, how many things have been stuck basically into due for like the last 3 months, basically finding out what numbers would matter for your boss or for your manager or for the team, and creating a dashboard so it's easy to see, like, hey, this hasn't moved in like 6 months, or like, hey, this was actually really, really fast. It was done in record time. So you want to have a quick and easy way to be able to generate reports for your team and again for your manager, so then there is clarity all throughout. Next is you want to make sure that you touch base with the team and with the client. Now, depending again on your main focus as project manager, it might be that everything that you were focused on is just with the team. The client already gave you really clear instructions on what to do and you're just managing the team. Or it could be the flip side, where the team knows what they're doing and you're now just managing the client, the expectations, the delivery of that work. So depending on which side you are, you want to make sure they at least do both meetings, where you have that clarity meeting with the client on what the project is about, what needs to get done, and then you're meeting with the team so then you are aware of their own strengths, their weaknesses, how you can best support them, asking them of where they're at and where they might be stuck in. That way, as you're starting to go in, you have the clarity on how you can support both sides, because whether or not you're just focused on the team or you're just focused on the client, it's going to be really important that you know both sides of the coin, so you have the whole picture of what this project is about and why it's even here, depending on, again, the kind of project that you are going to manage. Next up is setting up recurring meetings. So depending on, again, how complex or how vast this project is, you want to make sure that you check in with your team at least once a week, and with your client at least every 2 weeks. So depending again on what that flow and what makes sense, you want to make sure that it is booked in into your calendar, so you don't have to make time for it. It's already in the calendar when the next check-in is, when the next outreach is. So then for both sides, you guys have the clarity of like, hey, I can ask them for help on Monday, or hey, I can go ahead and bug them at this time because I know that is the time allocated for me to be able to reach out to them. So you're kind of removing the stress of like, should I contact them? When is the next meeting? It's already all laid out in recurring matter, either on Google Calendar or whatever it is that you're using across teams. But you want to make sure that there is that arena, that area that both the team members and the clients can have a little bit of a check-in, so then they don't feel like they're kind of lost in the woods, and they're also given the clarity of where everything is at. Next is, as you're getting into the flow of managing the project, again, whether you're managing like new projects as they come in, or it could be the recurring projects, is you want to start looking at what are automations and processes that could be improved. Because of course, now that you're here, now that you're actually doing a lot of the tasks or managing the tasks as they come along, your main thing as project manager is to support them through the process and make sure what needs to get done actually gets done, and to provide that clarity and that strategy for anyone who could be stuck or just needs a little bit of guidance. So through this whole process, you're able to go ahead and see like, hey, we can add AI to this, or like, hey, we can add an automation to this. Hey, we can use this new tool and it will actually delete 3 other tools that we have. So you want to start looking at ways to improve things to make it a little bit easier on the team and for the client as well. And you want to keep an eye out of like, hey, we can add this to the documentation of like, hey, this wasn't ever documented. We should probably create a documentation for it. So again, it's you kind of going around and kind of supporting every single person as you can as they are working on their own thing. And of course, you want to make sure that you gather your own data. So reverse to, the beginning where you're gathering their data, you want to make sure that you're gathering your own data. Things like your SOPs, the documentation, the reports, the projects you've gotten done, how you got them done, any bottlenecks that might have happened in between. You want to gather the current projects you're working on and completed projects that you've done, so there's an easy way to review them or be able to go back as needed. And of course, your own KPIs, or the KPIs that you affect within the business. So again, for you, you're kind of self-motivated. You know where things are at. You know how your actions affect everything else in the business, and makes it easier for you to be able to see things from that bird's eye view, so then you can zoom in on the right things as you're working with different people, different clients, and different KPIs or targets that you have within the business. Being a project manager VA can feel like there's a lot of pressure to make sure things are working, but keep in mind that you are there to support the process and the people as they're going through it, as they're starting to create that output that was set hopefully at the beginning of the project, and helping them adjust as needed as things pop up. So you're kind of just there as a little bit of that support crew for them to make sure that they can do what they do best. Now, if you guys like this video, of course, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below if you have any questions about what it's like being a project manager VA. I would love to know. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to build business from home, which you guys can check out those 2 playlists right here and the latest video right here. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and with it, small steps matters, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.